match 3, the winner's match. And here we go. We do have close positions yet again. Top left-hand position, we have the red Zerg. It is Acer Scarlett against the bottom left-hand Protoss. Can we ask him Crank?
So I think this should favor Crank a little bit, though. Crank, he has practiced with Scarlett a good bit, I think. Scarlett was living in that Axiom Acer team house for quite a while, so I assume they practiced a little bit. Not so many players in the house, so I think they'd all have a good amount of games and experience with each other's play. And Scarlett, her play probably hasn't developed too much in the last month when she hasn't been playing, and Crank's they might have, so I think he has kind of the upper hand in this match.
Is there anything Scarlett can do to really punish the positions? Right now, she's actually being incredibly lucky getting this Overlord for the first scout. Can she take advantage of this in any way, shape, or form?
It depends a little bit on Crank's build. If it's a gateway expand, I don't think there's any way to punish a gateway expand, because it's just so safe with that quick mothership core, especially on a map like this, where it only takes 2 gateways and a pylon of wall at the expansion instead of 3. If it's a forge expand, there's some ways you can punish. Sometimes you can do a timing all-in that hits and kills them before a mothership core is for an overcharge and they only have 1 cannon. That can work out. I think it would be kind of tough for her to punish it, though, to be honest.
She's playing incredibly safe going the spawning pool first, huh?
Yeah. It's a safe build, standard, just pretty normal so far. Crank going for the Nexus first. That'll give him a bit of an advantage, I think. And scouting the correct direction first.
There are a couple of variations when you can go gateway instead of forge after this, even though it seems really, really unsafe. You're basically going a gateway after the expansion and also the second pylon if you think your opponent is going for a hatch first. And especially on 4-player maps, that's an okay assumption to make. But it looks like Crank will just throw down the forge, play comprehensive.
Don't tell the Protoss players about this, Andre. I think us Zergs will have a much higher... well, a much lower win rate if we Protoss players start doing this. On this map especially, it's really easy to do that if you just do the Nexus first, gateway, without a forge at all. Because it only takes 2 buttons to wall off.
Yeah. Put
down a gateway as soon as it's done, throw in the core, and Chronoboost is out, and they can't do anything.
Exactly. And from there, I mean, you have a boosting economy, so much Chrono Boost, you have probably an extra Chrono Boost that you can use from that. And it actually yields you a lot more over a minute. But as it stands right now, nothing too crazy coming out of both of these players. Queen coming down here. We're going to see a very fast third base before the second queen. Do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, I see a lot of people just very, very persistent on saying always 2 queen before third hatch, or third hatch before the second queen. Is there any real difference?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I think one's better than the other one, but not by that much. And no, I don't think anyone actually knows for certain which one's better now. We see some Zergs, they do 3 hatches before 2 queens, and some do 2 queens and then 3 hatches. They both end up working out to put the Zerg in about the same position, though.
Okay.
So.
There's no like creep advantage for the queen or drone advantage that you could say?
The creep advantage is mostly due to when they decide to skip that 1 larva inject and throw it on the tumor.
Gotcha.
And it's just stylistic.
So far, nothing too crazy, though, as we see very standard play coming out from both these players, which is what we kind of expected in the first maybe 7 minutes of this game. But as soon as 6 minutes, 6:30, 7 minutes kind of shapes up, that's where we get to see. As you can see, 5:30, this is where he's throwing down a Stargate. This is an incredibly fast Stargate. Now, there's a couple of variations that goes in with this. You could just go the gas, or just 2 gas, not take your 3rd or 4th gases, and go for Void Race. There's an all-in and an expansion build that you can do from this. Or you can take your 3rd and 4th gas, kind of hide your build a little bit more, and just play this a lot more economically. Go for the Phoenixes, 4 Phoenixes, then you take a Robo, go for an expansion, and play it very, very safe.
We'll have to see what he wants to do. I think it'll probably just be a safe 3rd base build. Usually we don't see all-ins with Stargates, although you see them occasionally. It'll usually be a couple Phoenixes and then just go all-in with the 7 or 8 gate.
Yeah.
I don't think that's kind of Crank style from what I've seen in the past.
I've actually looked at a lot of games with the 4 Phoenixes, and especially yours. I've seen it against you, I think against Max Set on Whirlwind, and he did the same build where he just gets Phoenixes, and you just crushed him. Is this the case where the 4 Phoenix build is like figured out in PvZ?
I think it's kind of figured out. I think it can still work out for a macro game, but it's not as good as it used to be just because the Zergs know what they have to do to respond, how much they can drone, stuff like that. I think usually the longer a build stays in the metagame, the weaker it is against Zerg, because it's just more figured out.
And what is it that they've like figured out? Like, what is the correct response against this 4 Phoenix thing that Scarlett needs to do?
Well, as soon as she sees the Phoenixes, she knows she doesn't need that fast Roach Warren, so she's going to skip that. She's getting additional gases now. She's getting them a bit quicker than I think she would normally if she didn't see Phoenix. And she's going to make a lot of drones. Some Zergs prefer 6 spores, 2 at each base. Some prefer only 1 at each base. We'll have to see what she does. 2 at the natural, 1 in the main, 1 at the third. She can kind of wait a little bit on the second spore if she goes for a second in the main and a second in the third, because there's not that many Phoenixes out yet.
Okay. Makes sense. Third base is already being taken by Crank. As you can see, this is an incredibly fast Nexus, by the way, relative to when the Phoenixes popped out. And he's really taking advantage of not only the Overlord spread, because you can't really place good Overlords across this map because it's a 4-player map, but also just the fact that the Phoenixes kind of hide this, right? You kill the Overlords, there's not a lot of Zerglings, you can't have Metabolic Boost this early based on the build, and you know, Crank's going to just punish the time where there's not enough units to really react to anything like a very, very fast third base. So I like what we're seeing so far. Void Ray is going to actually come in behind this, along with the Twilight Council. Why Twilight Council and not something like a Robo for Colossus?
I think he wants to go for a timing with Blink Stuckers. We'll have to see, though. I think this game could come down to another quick Hydra Link timing like we saw before. That timing would be good if Scarlett went for it. You can kind of move most of the units to the third base and then sweep in from behind going up that ramp near the natural. And it can be difficult for Protoss to deal with. But it looks like she is making the Spire, so she's going to do a transition to mutas afterwards, I think.
Yeah, I like this, and especially with the Spore coverage, it makes so much sense. And I think, you know, the jig is up, too, because Scarlett's only seen 1 Phoenix this whole time, so it's really obvious. And look at this, how fortuitous. Scarlett going to find not only the probe, but the pylon that was just built all the way in the mid-right-hand position. Yeah, as you can see, 4th and 5th base being taken so far away. This is most certainly going to be a muta transition. Are there the required means to defend against this for Crank?
Not yet, but he still has some time. Scarlett, actually, if you notice, she hasn't banked up much gas at all yet. So although she is going to be going for that mass mutalist play, which is kind of indicated by the quick 5 base, it's not going to kick in too soon. Crank right now, he's not prepared for it, but it's not going to come out yet, so he doesn't need to be.
Well, he's pushing out here, trying to force a lot of units out, but unfortunately for him, a lot of units are already forced out. So you can see Hydras and Zerglings all across the map. Muscular Augments is being upgraded to defend against multiple areas, and these Zealots are not going to be able to do much damage against the Zergling Hydra army that exists out here for Scarlett, as Crank is just going to get demolished over here, the small little harasses that go on everywhere. And this does look like a scary position for Crank to be in right now. Yet again, we're seeing a game similar to how Puck's game went, where there's just an overwhelming amount of units, and Scarlett's just going to flood in with mass Zergling and Hydras, which are just so cost-efficient in early game stages. And wow, if he loses, no, he's going to lose all of these Zealots as well. That's a big pick-off. A full 30 seconds from those gateways are demolished. And how can Crank actually defend against this? He's going to take massive losses here.
Yeah, he has to throw in that foot and overcharge immediately.
Oh no, he needs to throw it down! He doesn't throw it down! The force shields are going to come up here, but it only sections off a couple of those Hydras.
The sectioning on those Hydras is good, though. You don't want to section too many off, or it's enough that they can just fight you, kind of. So that was good. He didn't lose any hit points on any of the Void Rays, and he dealt with those Hydras. But it's still so many units, and she's going mutas at this point. Mutalisker now about to fly into his natural, which it is defended, but still, I don't know if he has enough to defend his third base. And if he loses that, it's game over.
He doesn't have a lot because these Hydras are just so powerful, but the Archons now going to be able to get in range. The Voiders are taking a lot of damage here, and there's no focus fire from those Hydras, but that's going to do it because the mutas in the natural base. GG Scarlett